I ought to do these more often. Maybe get some Pillar Garbage on here more often. You know, pump them numbers up, dude. Jesus. Come on, give me them numbers, Pillar. We love Pillar of Garbage around here. Like literally, it's unhealthy, honestly, the amount of love that we have for this guy. It's fucking, I'm trying to make him feel real weird whenever he pops on here. Anyway, so Endymion, if you remember, he had a, first encounter I had with him. We addressed it, but we didn't address him specifically because he was just one of the, among the choir of people that were grifting on X-Men 97. It's the first time I really noticed the guy. He was grifting over, he had one of the most notorious, in my view, thumbnails about Rogue's cakes. I think it even said Rogue's cakes, and I'm pretty sure that that thumbnail ended up in this guy's videos about that. How's it going, man?
Yeah, not bad.
You just waking up or what?
Yeah. What are you doing up? Isn't it like...
It's late, man. It's Saturday. I've been sleeping really late and then like just kind of hanging out and stuff. And I'm trying to change up my habits on YouTube a bit in various different ways. And one of those includes like, if something pops up and it's late and there's nothing else going on, why not just jump on and do a quick live stream about it?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I can't judge you.
Prepared for everything first and all that stuff. Just go,
Yeah. I had a late one myself, so I respect a bit of burning of the midnight oil.
Yeah. I used to do a lot more. Then I, stopped for whatever reason. Kids, I think. But my partner is very cool about like she's gonna go hang out and play some League of Legends on her office computer, and I'll do this in here, and because this is a bedroom actually. So
yeah.
Hence there's a bed right here.
That's a couple of goals though.
Man, you've been pretty busy lately, it seems like, huh?
Yeah, I'm the king of slop.
Okay.
I mean, that's what the commenters tell me.
Well, I mean, I actually said in I think it was a community server just a little while ago. I was like, man, can somebody tell me what slop is, please? I keep seeing it now. It's like the new word, and I always like am like whenever there's some new word that just seems to come out of nowhere and everybody's using it. It's like my reaction is just. So, what's up? You're the king of slop.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, in some ways, slop is just, people were saying mid a few months ago. Now they're saying slop.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's part of it. My thesis in my video was that people are actually they're saying slop, but they're really meaning, basically
garbage,
trash content that's like kind of in shitified media, in that it's stuff shot out by people aiming at metrics, like Goodhart's law.
Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah. But no, that was my thesis.
Sorry, go ahead.
That there was something behind the slop label. But honestly, I think I was wrong, just because I've had so many comments on that video calling the video slop because it's long. So I think I was wrong to try and ascribe some deeper meaning to it. I think slop is just the new word. I think you are right.
I mean, I don't love being right, but and I don't love to think that you probably put a lot. I know you put a lot of time and effort into video, and then to just come around on the other end of it like that was, not what I thought it was. I know that's pretty frustrating, but I guess like when I first started hearing it, obviously I'd known what slop is generally, but like it was actually somebody who I very much value their opinion on things that was using it, and I was like, and it hit me weird because it's I'll just say I don't mind because I'm saying I respect the shit out of her. It's Chariot. And Chariot was using that word, and I was like, wait, what is that? Like you're talking, and to me it strikes me, the same way, it kind of activates that defense that EFAP activates whenever they're calling something objectively bad or whatever, right? Because I'm like, okay, but something that might be slop to you, right? Like it's not necessarily, that's where my I guess I just defer to defending people's right to like shit that you don't see any value in. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Something I tried to touch on in my video a little bit is that even if you try and define slop in a way where it is speaking to underlying kind of principles, you can't ever get at that objectively. And also to say that something's slop in the way that I do is not even to say that it's good or bad. But yeah, I think I'm coming at it and trying to to turn a widely used phrase into something a little bit more specific and maybe more interesting and positive than maybe most people are using it as. So yeah, I
Being
mean,
useful,
the way a
at
lot of
least.
people the way a lot of people talk about slop, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
It is just kind of lazy, I think.
So yeah, it ends up, you know, before I even really looked into it or anything, it just kind of started sliding into the same category as woke, or you know, something like that. It's just like, oh, so this is just like a new word that maybe there's people like Chariot. I talked to her about it, and I understand where she was coming from with her definition of it, and I respect that. But I mean, I know for a fact there's people that will use that word just as the new dismissive thing.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I'm just like, I'm gonna avoid it. But I did see your video. I did not watch the video on it. It's probably the first one since I've heard of you that I was not like pretty much like, ooh, pillar of garbage video, because I was like, oh no, there's that word. I'm sure you've got something, you know, cool to say about it. I just, you know, I've been stuff going on, getting ready for holidays and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you know, don't run to watch it. I don't think it's necessarily one of my best videos. It's got a lot of views, but the
Well, I
next one,
mean,
I'm doing another one at the moment that's I think that's turning that video, ironically, into something more important. Because
okay.
I don't know if you saw this, but I'm actually a little bit of a persona non grata at the moment because I made a little error in that video, and now
Oh no,
yeah, about
should I not be
3.
talking to you right now?
Yeah, no, you're gonna catch so much shit for this.
Shit, dude, you gotta let people know what
Yeah.
happened.
No, I am being mostly facetious. I accidentally used an AI stock video in the video, and so that, you know, rightfully got a few people, you know, putting AI in a video about slop is something that
Yeah,
yeah, you're probably right to call out. So I'm currently working on a video because I got it from my paid. I have a Storyblocks membership,
right.
and they're not supposed to have AI stuff on there, so it's kind of
Oh
a bit of a rabbit hole. So I'm
wow,
currently in the process of turning a relatively pedestrian video about slop and its aftermath into
into a battle
something
with story blocks in their
into
yeah.
well, you know, there's a man behind the curtain, sort of.
Mhm.
Storyblocks isn't even the real villain here, you know?
John Q story blocks. Who is that? You know,
Yeah,
what's his
a
involvement in it?
misunderstood man.
Yeah, I mean, somebody made the decision or overlooked the decision, and either way, it is not reflective in a positive sense on them. Um, you know, so
Yeah,
yeah,
but that's
I
what I'm
salute
up to.
you, man.
Yeah,
Cool. I mean, I saw that like the other day. I noticed that you already at what 145,000 subscribers, something like that.
yeah.
And it just seemed like yesterday you hit 100K, and I'm like, man, he's still going, still killing it. Love it. Love
People
to see.
keep clicking, I guess.
They don't like slop, but they love the garbage. You know.
Yes.
Um, cool. Well, yeah. So I was like, just, you know, digging around. I probably would have gone to bed in the next hour or two, maybe still. But like, I saw where Eric DeBunks had you know, had some problems with YouTube. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Unfair,
Sorry, put that in there.
unevenly applied terms of service.
Fancy that. That'd never
Yeah.
happen.
And I just was like, you know, I wanted to kind of, for one thing, promote the Shillies and the Chuddies coming up Wednesday. You know, it's gonna be a whole extravaganza. It's gonna be fun times.
Yeah.
Awards given and maybe some taken away. I don't know. Maybe some people will be stripped of their rank. We don't. It could be crazy, but yeah. And then I just was like, well, I know this guy. I've dealt with this guy a couple of times now. One in particular that's just like one of the most fucking egregious things that I've just. And I don't even know if I can put into words what it is about him that is just so. Maybe it's just because he's so brazen about lying that, you know, yeah, we know fucking Nerdrotic and Jeremy Greer, they all lie, right? But
Yeah.
like, there's usually some, you know, I don't know, foundation that may not be 100% fact, but it's a foundation of like maybe 60% fact and then like 40% bullshit mixed into the foundation, right?
Yeah.
And then they operate from that. Whereas like the video that I did a few months ago, or was just really a stream conversation with Bob of the Old Ways, where we looked at when he was saying that what's his name, Alan Richson from the show Reacher, is this big, you know, he's a big public Christian who's, you know, anti woke and all this woke shit. and blah 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 blah. And then you look into Alan Richson's literal YouTube channel, his content, and I don't know if you saw any of that. Did you see that at all?
Yeah, I saw some of it. I probably didn't see all of the content around it, but I know what you're talking about.
So I
And
mean, there's just like
that
one
guy is
video
just
in
not
particular
that,
where
right?
he's just like, I fucking hate woke. It's such a stupid word, and he just goes on this amazing, honestly, one of the best, just like
Yeah.
damning rants against the idea of wokeness or whatever that I've ever heard. And you know, and yeah, I was just like, how can you do this? And he's literally had taken clips from several videos where he not only, you know, admonishes the use of woke, he admonishes like people like Matt Gaetz and Elon Musk and all this stuff. Like, he's very obviously not a conservative in any way, shape, or form. He's just a Christian, right?
Yeah.
And I understand that, you know, especially here in the US, it's that's not super common, but it does happen. And this guy still like took these videos that we could pinpoint the videos that he had used B-roll for or from, and it was like a video where he's talking shit on Elon Musk, and a video where he's talking about, you know, Trump and his MAGA cult and all this stuff that, like, very obviously, like, there's no way he missed that shit when he's cutting stuff out of it, right? You know what I mean? And I'm just like,
It is
that fucking angers
an
me.
elongated process of bad faith
Yes,
making those videos. And because some of these guys, you can kind of see how they would delude themselves, but something like that, you know, it's
you're very clearly just doing this dishonestly, man. I ended up like doing it as like a video called Delete Your Channel, episode 1, you know, where I'm just like, the only way you can fucking resolve this, man, is just to delete your channel. Just stop. Now, some people really got upset about that too, by the way. Like, got some messages, some emails, some criticism, like, oh, you can't believe you told him to delete his channel. It's like, well, it's not like I have, you know, my
it's
voice
not like
has
you're the YouTube
mental
star.
persuasion or something. Like, it's just something I wish that he would do, but it's like, my opinion means nothing. Anyway, hey, good morning, Reggie. How's things going?
Hi.
And oh, by the way, Paul, hey, man. And so yeah, apparently that post on I thought he made a video too. I might be mistaken about that. I think it might have just been that one community post, or that one post on Twitter, I suppose, or I'm not sure what happened. But he made a post or video where he criticized him for laughing at that promo, right, with black people in it, because they didn't exist before 1950.
Yeah.
And I guess, and he talked about this being targeted harassment because, and this is the context that I'm still missing, and, you know, but whatever. Look, I'm still operating on more facts than Endymion TV does. So, and then apparently his audience, I guess, just immediately targeted Eric DeBunks and got his video taken down. Maybe, definitely his one community post. And it's just like, man, that shit pisses me off.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I kind of wanted to stir the shit and just agitate and see what happens if I say that, you know, I don't know. I mean, I definitely don't want anybody to target or harass Endymion TV, but I think he's a stupid piece of shit. And, you know, I think that he should, you know, feel bad about his decisions in life. And still, I think he should delete his fucking channel.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think anything you've said there is remotely controversial, at least among those of us who have brains. And it's weird because this guy does have a track record of having a very confusing level of thin skin relative to the obvious bad faith he operates in, that you know, discussed with him editing past clips that directly contradict what he's saying. I remember, did you see the thing a few weeks ago where he made some sort of video or something citing some insider source about the game dev CD Projekt Red's like staff turnover or something, and fucking their DEI or whatever, and then he got called out by their CEO or something, and surprise, surprise, everything he said was bollocks. And then he had I think he rung that for like a minute or two of like, oh, the fucking game dev institutions are coming for me. Everyone's trying to get me. I'm just a little guy, you know? So it's definitely not the first time he's had a very sort of embarrassing knee-jerk reflex to stuff like this.
Well, I mean, also the do you remember his response to X-Men 97? So he's like I said right before you came on, you might remember that one of his thumbnail for the Rogue's ass thing is one of the most, it's seared in my brain. Yeah, it's like, so Rogue's cakes are gone, or they stole her cakes or something like that. And I know that you used it in one of your videos about it because it's just one of the ones that pops up. and and we debunked that whole thing. We showed at least a brief supercut of several shots from the show where, I mean, just the fact that
she's just drawn like a normal woman.
just the fact that it's the only image you ever see like that should tell you that, like, if it was a thing, then we'd see all these images of Rogue's fat ass, and it just doesn't happen. But anyway, so, but then whenever the show came out, and I've watched a couple of his videos because I was going to include them in a video I never ended up finishing about X-Men 97, where he's before the show talking about how it's already ruined. It's already they're going to make it about the black gay perspective because of the talking about what's his name had said at one point. And I was gonna, make a joke about, like, oh, it's literally gonna be just from a black gay perspective. Mutants aren't even a thing anymore.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's he ended up coming around. It was him, Yellow Flash guy, and a couple of others after the show debuted, a few weeks into it, I suppose, when it was just undeniable that, like, everybody fucking loved it. And even if you watched it wanting to hate it and grift on it, you probably had a hard time doing that because it's so good. And he had came out and said, oh, I was so wrong about X-Men 97. And it's like, those videos are still up, though. You know what I mean? Like, they're still up, poisoning fucking brains and lying to people. And I just find that really disgusting,
I don't know how, because I'm looking at his channel page now, and I'll give him this. He, for this genre of repeating the same narrative around different objects very, very sort of frequently with identical thumbnails, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how he manages to get so many views all the time. I mean, I know a lot of them do it, and I know it's obviously, as we've all spoken about a million times, it's algorithm, hyperfuel to just get viewers hooked on a sort of poisonous, enraging narrative. But it's just all the same. It's just the same thing over and over. And, like, even your RK Outposts and, Geeks and Gamers, they can't manage to consistently get, like, this many all the time.
No, these are fucking, he's putting up good numbers. And based on videos that, like, he's already done them. You're like, very obviously this is a video he's done before. And
how many times do you think he's done Assassin's Creed Shadows or whatever it's called? Because I'm just scrolling down and I'm counting like 4 or 5 already.
Defenders, sweet baby.
That's like 2 weeks ago. Who is still
crazy?
Who even in this sphere is still talking about Sweet Baby?
And yeah, in the fourth quarter of 2024, man, come on, Sweet Baby Inc. That shit's played out.
It was like 2 moral panics ago.
Yeah. Man, it's astonishing, and it's not. Looking at this, it's like, okay, yeah, I see, Trump won, got it. You know what I mean? Because this definitely, it all is part of supporting an ecosystem of misinformation and moral outrage about things that they don't quite have a grasp on, and are also at least half untrue. You know what I mean? And it's all about that. And I guess that's the motive, other than the money, obviously. But it really is astonishing that anybody would give a fuck about Sweet Baby. Like, okay, does I don't know much about gaming, so I don't know if Warhammer has anything to do with Sweet Baby, but I feel like it doesn't.
Yeah, right? I mean, I would have to check, but when
just seems like algo bait, garbage type, like this, I would apply SLOP to,
Oh yeah,
it literally has no value, at least nothing positive or healthy, and that's what I would think of as SLOP.
And a channel like this is also one of the best pieces of evidence against, the apolitical idea, right? Because half of these thumbnails have got Donald Trump or some sort of MAGA Pepe in them. And right. It's very clear from the uniformity of the view counts that it is the same audience watching those as the fucking BioWare killed my children by putting a gay person in their game, content. It's just the same content, and they're all watching it, and then they'll turn around and say, oh, no, it's not political. Don't know why Donald Trump and fucking MAGA Pepe are on the thumbnail right next to...
Well, here's one I kind of agree with. Look, I mean, not us. I don't generally hate people I don't know, but Endymion, I kind of do hate you.
Yeah.
I kind of do, and I don't like that, because I don't like saying that I hate someone I've never even met or, or anything, but, like, Jesus, man.
Yeah, I mean, and we're not necessarily saying, I mean, not that it would be wrong to say this, but we're not saying whoever the fucking guy behind Endymion TV is, we're not saying hey, you as a person, you're uniformly awful. He may well be, right? But as digital content creators, especially sort of somewhat anonymized ones, Endymion TV isn't a person. It's like an identity that is the sum of a person, his speech, his actions online, and a bunch of things he's produced. And
I mean, he clearly is. There is a human being there, right? Like we can acknowledge it, but I mean, what is inside that human being is essentially a lack of identity, a lack of individuality, a lack of any kind of original thought or desire to create based on the things that he consumes. You know, and then
no, I'm with you there.
So what it is he's somebody has found, like you suggest, somebody has found this boy essentially in a man's body and said, well, since you're not a real person anyway, I can just stuff all this shit inside you and make you regurgitate it, and you know, based on algorithmic favor, and we're off to the fucking races. And
yeah,
there you go.
I mean, I'm with you there as well. But what I'm trying to get at is that should it even be a big controversial thing to talk about a constructed identity like Endymion TV rather than the guy behind Endymion TV and say, I hate you, constructed identity who does this online?
No, you're right. I mean, it's not, I wasn't like couching that in like, you know, well, but because I'm like worried about someone
I know
saying it. I just, on a personal level, I don't like to apply hatred to things or people or anything. It's not my favorite thing. It's not my first go-to, you know, but sometimes it's just the only thing that I can think works. And you know, eat my ass, you know, like what's, dude, what do you, oh, this is what you're talking about. This is when he was in his big, how long did he grift on that? So this is where he was talking about it, right?
So,
before they responded.
There's I can see 3 videos on one page here. There's Sweet Baby Agenda, Infect CD Projekt Red as CEO of Panics, plus Endymion TV swarmed by woke freaks, and then there's 2 more after that.
Oh, they love to insert themselves into the fucking narrative too.
Yeah,
they love when that happens.
I think so. I think the 2 videos before that, Ubisoft Insiders reveals woke industry, which isn't correct grammar, by the way. It should be reveal if it's talking about plural. But I think that's he probably made a comment about CDPR in that video because he said his source was in Ubisoft. So I think there's 4 videos basically on that little you know, grift content kind of nugget.
Great. You know, I wonder, like, if and I hate to do this, but if there is any kind of skill in any of this stuff, it's knowing how long to, you know, I mean, I guess it's not a skill to just look at numbers, really, right? You're looking at numbers, you look at your internal metrics, and you're going, okay, this one's dropping off. Time to move on to the next bullshit.
Yeah.
And you know, I guess, man, I don't know, man. I can't imagine. Unrelated to him, I was thinking about Critical Drinker.
Oh yeah. I often think about Critical Drinker. Actually, that's not true anymore.
But like, you know, I'm sure you saw where the video that I broke the news that at one point in 2016 he was charged with, however, not the charges were dropped or he was found not guilty or something. I'm not sure the carryover of the you know, how the justice system works over there in Dunfermline, Scotland or whatever. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing something that you're like is your heritage or anything. It's you know, so he was not actually convicted of anything, but he was charged with beating up an 11-year-old boy. And which is, wow, man, you know, who among us, right? But you know, it's like when you really think about that, there had to have been some incident that happened, not necessarily involving him. I don't know. Some 11-year-old boy got beaten up by an adult man, clearly.
Yeah.
You know, and then like, because they don't fucking file charges like that in the first place for just some 11-year-old kid saying, hey, I got beat up. I'm like, oh yeah. No, there had to have been something that happened.
I mean, you know, I think it's easy to imagine, and it probably is true that it was some kind of mix up. I think on the balance of probability, like maybe an eyewitness got him confused with someone else or something. You know, there's a lot of explanations like that could be true, but it is when you factor it into the rest of the Critical Drinker mythology, it is an odd little episode in that man's life, right?
Is
I
it
mean,
odd, or because this is what I was thinking about, is I started kind of putting things into context that I already knew about him, like in his Everything Everywhere All at Once review, which is honestly not a terrible review overall. It's, I mean, it's a little bit thin, it's a little bit, you know, simplistic. It's not something I would
yeah, but we've all
consider
made
a very
thin,
fulfilling
simplistic
review for
videos.
that movie, which has a lot to dig into.
Yeah.
But it is, you know, kind of, you know, by the numbers, positive review of a movie. And then there's a one line where he's like, you know, now if this was created by some Gen Z fucking, you know, director, that they would have made this, and you know, it's like out of nowhere, just randomly creating this straw man version of this movie to attack, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, Gen Z. So like, I mean, he and then just how much he hates on Disney. I think he hates youth. I think there's something in him that is really, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that this confirms anything about that incident or anything. I'm just saying that, like, it stands to reason that maybe he could have gotten a little pissed off at some little kid that maybe said something, or just even did something, represented something that triggered him deeply, right? He's got some fucking, I don't know, open wound inside of him that goes back to his childhood, that he fucking hates about himself, and he hates everything that, you know, connects to it, right? I don't
Well,
know.
so
It's
much
just
of the conservative identity these days is the world today's shit. It should go back to how it was when I was a kid, which is
Mhm.
obviously, you know, and the behind that is the fact that they were a kid and they didn't see the bad shit when they were younger, and now they do, and also the fact that, yeah, in a lot of ways the world was better a few decades ago, but that's not because of the youth. It's because of you know, Reagan, Thatcher, and their ripple effects all over the world, and
Yeah.
fucking the Chicago School of Economics. Go fuck yourself, neoliberals. I'm gonna
Mhm.
hit you all in the head with a brick. But yeah, I mean, it it would, speaking purely hypothetically, if you told me someone beat up a kid and it's someone who's later shown to be really emotionally wrapped up in sort of return neoconservative sort of cultural arguments about degenerate cultural rot, and the other one's like just like a normal guy, then obviously I would
Yeah.
probably bet on one of those over the other. But
You know,
yeah, I mean, I
this
don't want to.
pop psychology I'm doing here, you know, just armchair shit. Like, it's fun to think about. Like, I try to get into, you know, without getting too into it or spending a whole lot of time on it. You know, when something pops up and I make a connection, I'm like, I'm gonna follow this strand and see what I can tie together here. And I
Yeah.
mean, you know, there's the fact that he's like, he hates new versions of things that are aimed at children, and he thinks, and there's a paradox here, because, you know, he was a child who enjoyed the things that he now says are being ruined, which is aimed at children, but he acts like it's supposed to be aimed at him, right? Um,
Yeah.
and there's some kind of weird twisted fucking thing going on there. I don't know, but you know, that's why I didn't graduate psych school or whatever. I didn't even go. So yeah, it's
Well, that's probably why you didn't graduate.
right. Yeah, I don't know, and you're right. It is definitely a thing where they have some unhealthy relationship with their own childhoods. They, you know, there's an idealized, we all were kids who had idealized you know, notions of the future and what things were going to be like, and you know, and I think most people have had that, you know, unless you're like some kind of nepo kid, um you've had that fucking destroyed.
Yeah.
And then to see that, like, we don't even have the same kind of future ahead of us that kids, you know, at least in the last couple of generations had for
Oh
them,
yeah.
you know, for themselves. And it's like, it's kind of doomering. I understand that.
Yeah, I mean,
um
it's kind of doomering, but also there is a balance between doomering and seeing what's in front of you, right? Like, I'm not paying into a pension yet, and that's partially because I'm a YouTuber and I don't have very much money. But also, like, should I be? A pension fund's still going to pay out when I'm, you know, in 40, 50 years time, you know? I don't know. I think there's a pretty good chance they won't. Does it
I mean,
make
yeah,
sense for me to
exactly. Like,
set
I
one
mean,
up? And
are you supposed to, like, is that something you are legally bound to do with your
it's not
income?
you're not legally bound to, but it's basically conventional wisdom would, you
Okay.
know, and reasonably be that if you're 25 as I am, and you know, working or self-employed or whatever, and you're not paying into a pension by this point, that's poor future planning, really.
Sure. but yeah, I mean, has there been things? It seems like I've got something on the edge of my vague memory of something about pension funds being raided or something like that.
Well, it's they like to up the time when you get it. So like I think a few years ago, maybe you got it sooner. I mean, this is a state pension, so mine would be different if it was private. But yeah, it's just in a lot of ways, the future is very uncertain.
Sure.
But it's not because of Kathleen Kennedy.
No, but I mean, like, I guess if there's nothing else we can aspire to other than fighting the good fight and maybe saving a few poor souls along the way.
Yeah,
we can maybe try to keep Kathleen Kennedy from being written as the demon who brought it all down. We can do that for her.
I think I can save her. I think I can change her.
I can save. We can make her. I don't know. Stop saying things that like feed right into the bullshit. Because she said something not too long ago. I was like, "Come on, Kathy, what are you doing, Kath?"
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting less and less interested in. Not that I think I or we have ever like played defense for Disney. I don't think that's like an accurate description of what we've done. I think we've tried to play defense for art and the process of appreciating art. But also, I'm getting less and less interested in doing stuff that is kind of generous in intention toward places like Disney. Because did you see the shit about like what was it? Devil Dinosaur episode or whatever it is.
Yes.
I don't watch.
I mean, I have not even watched a video about it, but I've seen the videos listed, and it pisses me off just to see them. And I should look into it. I've honestly really kind of upended my consumption habits since I don't know. There was some event recently that caused me to start rethinking things.
Oh, you mean when Twitter died? That's the only big thing that's happened recently.
Well, I mean, it's that's a whole other conversation. But like, I did probably take on a little bit of an unhealthy amount of like thinking that we were not us as individuals, but like generally seeing a pushback against the dumb shit that clearly was not happening the way that I kind of thought it was. And it
may have done, but like if there was a pushback, as I think as ground is gained and lost in this fucking stupid culture war that we've ended up sort of on the sidelines of, that's a small portion of, I think, even though there's a lot of people of all ages, I think it skews younger. So even if you manage to take a lot of ground back and make a lot of people see that it's all silly, really, I feel like just because of the kind of voter turnout, age demographic statistics, I don't necessarily know that the demographic that is watching Endymion or The Critical Drinker would have been the kind of pivotal swing voters. I don't know. I just think
you're right.
Because
you are right, and this is what it's reframing it and reframing like how much energy I want to put into this going forward. Because I mean, I told you when we talked earlier in the year that like I think I told you that I mean it's public now that like coming up around the election time I was going to be changing how I do this for sure, possibly quitting entirely. And I might be. There's going to be one of us is quitting on Wednesday. Got to tune into the Shillies and Chuddies to find out who. But yeah, it's just been kind of reframing how I see it and what do I want to do. Like I'm perfectly willing to beat my head against the wall, trying to preach to people that, want to just call me a cuck and chill and stuff like that. As long as I know that it's having some effect, with some individuals here and there. And I don't know that I've been seeing that as much lately.
I mean, that's fair. I just think the flip side is we can't take on too much of the blame or the burden for the Dems running a shitty campaign.
True. That's true. I mean, absolutely true. Absolutely. And I mean, I kind of will not push back because the Dems did run a shitty campaign. That's true.
Yeah.
However, I think that I don't know what kind of campaign can actually overcome just the fucking tidal wave of disinformation and bullshit and just bad faith, conspiracy theories and everything, the fire hose effect that's just been, getting bigger and bigger in some ways for years. And now it's gone to a different generation now. That's like, I don't know what kind of, is there a campaign that can fucking effectively do that? I really don't know.
Well, I mean, you look at the period in the summer where it was still kind of up in the air. It was, everything was a bit uncertain. It was clear that she was going to be the nominee. And then she brings in Walls, and they have that. They have the brat aesthetic. They have the conservatives, a weird thing, and this is before all the kind of, I think, the more sort of center right part of the Dems sort of financial backing kind of locks into gear behind them.
Well, she actually did choose to, kind of like disconnect from the criticizing, corporatism and stuff like that, and actually started to appeal to that based on, I think it was her brother-in-law or whatever, who's like somebody with Uber or whatever.
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of reasons that the Republicans did well. One of which is the fact that the one everyone's talking about, which is people vote based on how they remember the economy feeling, and they don't realize that there's like the lag effect where a president is in and then the next president kind of inherits his economy, and they don't realize that. But I do think that if you plot out a kind of hypothetical trajectory of the other campaign Harris could have run with, and that would have had characteristics like going harder on these guys are weird. Why are they so weird? Also, let's engage the youth. Let's stop being actively complicit in a genocide. Let's create the idea that change is possible, instead of just being like, hey, you guys remember Liz Cheney? We all
Right.
love Liz Cheney. I think it's, to me, from my obviously biased and perspective of limited vision, it does seem that even if they lost, they would have lost. I don't think they would have lost all the fucking Senate and Congress as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's probably really substantial. Just really true. And I mean, so she was very close. That's the important thing to remember. I've been trying to remind myself and others that too. That's not like it was. They want to paint it as if it was some fucking landslide victory. It was not that, and especially
it wasn't a bunch of people who swung to the Republicans. It was Democrats who turned out in 2020 who weren't energized to turn out again.
And then honestly, just like kind of clever campaigning from from MAGA as far as like where they were going to spend their resources, and because it's those areas, those swing areas in particular, that won the thing for them, and not even by a whole lot in most cases. But so you got to think, Paul, that there's a whole apparatus of disinformation that has been going, really since the 80s. Ratcheted up in the 90s. It started with AM radio, and then it went on to Fox News. I've got a whole chart that breaks this down. Basically the parallel economy of media and of trusted institutions kind of thing. And they worked to create that, and then it really became a fucking problem with Citizens United. That's where it was like almost probably too late to go back unless we did something immediately. Where Citizens United, and then right after that there was the statistics that came out that said that after like I think it's 2050 that white people will not be the majority in the U.S. anymore. And I think that, along with Obama and stuff, really activated some latent fucking racism that was, had been there. It's just been kind of, people had become okay with just like keeping it suppressed in themselves. And then after Trump comes along and says, no, don't fucking suppress that. That's the right way to be out loud about it, and that's what you end up with. And that's why I think led to January 6th insurrection thing was they were so desperate to not let the train of reality that they had worked so hard to put on their track, on their reality track, or unreality track, it was going back, when Biden won. And they were like, holy shit, we're fucking going to lose it all. And then they spent the next 4 years desperately doing everything they possibly could to try to make sure that it went back on their track this time. And it did. The question now is it going to be possible to move it back?
And also the other part of it is that a lot of them, they're not sort of thinking that the Trump we see is going to be the better candidate, because they just fundamentally do not see the same person we do. Like, right. In part because of the media ecosystem that they're existing in, and also because of the fucking delusional phantasm of reality their brains have wrapped them in.
Like, they think that he is like an alpha male.
Yeah,
he's actually really healthy. He's healthy minded. He's a super intelligent. Like, these people, a lot of them think this shit, and it's like, all right, guess we are definitely on different tracks of reality then.
Yeah. Seriously, I mean, do you watch Philosophy Tube? I mean, that's where I got the concept.
I haven't watched her last probably I don't know how many videos or anything, but
yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge watcher, but some of the stuff she was putting out earlier this year touches on the philosophical idea that, and I can't remember where she gets it from, but like it is, it's an attested thing that there is just, we've kind of overvalued rationalism, and people's brains have the ability to sort of just transport them into to wrap reality around them in a very total way if it's kind of coming up against something they've been taught. Like, and I think that's becoming such a widespread thing.
If you were someone who values feeling good and righteous in the moment over, having empirical, evidence for the things that you say and think and believe and what you act on, then yeah, it's and I don't understand that mentality. I really don't.
I mean, but part of it is like, and I touch on this in the video I'm working on at the moment, because it's scaled up. It's the same reason I used AI stock footage in this latest video, because I didn't expect to see AI stock footage. I thought I was seeing real stock footage. And it's the same reason none of us, the video where the gorilla's playing basketball.
Oh yeah.
And you don't see the gorilla because you expect to just see basketball.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter that it's right there in front of you, because your brain has already been sort of preset to pass reality in a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's the real impact of the right-wing media economy, is that it realigns fundamentally the way they expect to see the world. And that's just, seeing is believing. Believing is seeing, rather.
Well, and maybe I need to do a video on this. I don't know. It feels like probably the most personal thing I could actually even put on YouTube. But like, there's a very specific reason why I'm as slavish to, empiricism and just like knowing that what I'm saying is coming from as much of a, tangibly factual basis as it possibly can be. And yeah, I'll think about it. It might, I don't know what value it might have, but I'll kick it around and ask people what they think.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's the reason I don't know what value it would have is because it's from a very specific upbringing and, series of events in my childhood and later on in life and stuff that like not a lot of people have had the same experience. So, but yeah, so it is bizarre to me to, just as a micro example that I would definitely use in that video if I did it. My dad was someone who so I was having, I guess, some emotional problems when I was a kid, right? Because my parents were divorced, stepmother was abusive and stuff like that. Kids have emotional problems. They put me into therapy. It's good. That's fine. I'm glad they did that. However, they told the therapist that like, well, he's into this stuff about Star Trek and comic books like X-Men, and he's writing. They found my notebook where I'd been writing about concepts and like stuff, devices in X-Men and Star Trek and things like that. And they were freaked out by it. They were like, these are Southeast Texas, kind of simplistic people, my parents, and they're like, we don't know what this is about. Does he believe this is real? And and I remember my therapist being like, you do know this is fiction. And I'm just like, I was stared at her for a minute, like, what?
Yeah.
Are you asking this for real? Like, of course I know it's fiction. What are you talking about? And and then like, fast forward now, my dad's a Trump supporter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like still. And it's like,
I mean, obviously there's a link there. Yeah.
It's just, it's kind of bizarre whenever I think about it in that context, but there's a whole story there. It could be interesting. Might be.
No, I think so.
Out there.
The reason I said, oh my God, a minute ago was because until you got to like the notebook, I was like, holy shit, are you me?
Oh, really?
Well, not like 100%, but broad strokes. No, just like the, divorced parents making a child feel funny ways, and therapy being an option that doesn't super fix everything,
Somehow there's something that's just wrong with me, and that I'm expressing, I'm definitely something weird going on with me, and they didn't want to take any credit for it or any responsibility.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think personally, I think a video like that would be really interesting. And I always like when a creator goes on to talk about, to relate this stuff that especially you've seen in their work before to kind of, the biological background of it. But
I mean, the reason that it's hard for me is because when I started doing YouTube, it was very specifically as like I'm a protected, I'm fucking insulated from a reprisal that I know they will try to do for me making content that I plan to make. So there's all these layers that I put into place before I ever made a video about like protecting myself and personal stuff, and you know, and now I understand that maybe some of that was a little bit overboard. Maybe not. Maybe I just needed to, you know, I don't regret doing it, but now I'm to a point where I realize that I'm actually way more insulated just in a psychological sense now than I am.
Yeah.
You know, I don't feel like anything anybody would say about any of that would harm me or anything. I've gotten pretty personal in a few videos, and I don't, you know, more often than not, people are appreciative of that. So, yeah, and that's, you know, that's kind of what I'm steering back to with my content a bit is. Those are the things that I've felt most fulfilled talking about. Like I've got my Superman video, my MCU Hulk video, Spider-Man, Psychology Spider-Man. Those things have, and then like the one that's still my most viewed video, the Watchmen video. They're all kind of touch on that stuff a little bit, and they seem to get the best response generally, and then I feel the most fulfilled doing them. And I haven't been doing anything like that in quite some time. It's been at least a year. Because I've just like kind of gone all in on, well, we've got this team of guys and we can kind of try to, you know, push back on narratives and stuff like that. And we've seen some evidence of it working, or at least having, you know, causing some some fractures in their groups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like for example, Ethan Van Sciver, we're pretty sure we convinced him to stop, you know, basically that Jeremy Griggs and Critical Drinker and those guys are grifters, you know, which is bizarre because he is also one. But I think what became clear was that he actually was buying into the, you know, all these movies are woke now and stuff because he thinks that about the comics. So he stopped watching the movies and shit. But then more recently, apparently, he started going back and watching movies and going, wait a second, these are really good in some cases. These guys are full of shit. And that's pretty cool to see.